Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to another video here today. Today we got a kind of interesting video. I guess you could say a part two or extensions of a previous video I've somewhat recently uploaded. It is the full-on review for the bHaptics TactSuit Air. As you can see right there, I thought about wearing it, but there's some stuff I want to flip around to kind of show occasionally, so I didn't want it on. But yeah, regardless, we're going to be kind of breaking down and giving you my honest thoughts and opinions on the TactSuit Air here. Just kind of, giving you a full-on review. The last one was just an unboxing and kind of initial impressions of it. But now that I've actually used this, enough times to kind of get a feel for it on different platforms and stuff with different capabilities, I feel like, I wanted to get this review out as soon as possible because obviously this is new stuff. People, at least in the niche, are kind of excited about it, obviously, and I want to just get this review out as soon as possible so people could have both parts of the series I'm doing on this thing, I guess, basically. But yeah, so because this is new technology, the bHaptics guys actually I saw were at CES 2025 premiering this as well as the bHaptics TactSuit Pro, which is their more expensive version of this. Basically, it has I think close to maybe double the motors, somewhere in that ballpark, for $500 instead of 250, which is what the TactSuit Air is priced at. But yeah, so it's pretty new. It came out recently. This is not they had the TactSuit X16 and X40 that are old, but these are not even a year old. These are, I think, a couple months old since you could, officially buy them. I don't know when the pre-order started or anything, but they're very new haptic suits. And right off the bat, people who have been familiar with bHaptics or their previous products might look at these suits and kind of go onto the website with them eventually here. You kind of see or ask like, what's the big difference between the TactSuit Air and the X16 or the Pro and the X40? Well, the one difference with we're not doing the Pro and X40 thing, but there is a few differences with the amount of amount of haptic motors that are like embedded into these vests. This has 16, just like the X16, so this is comparable to that. But obviously, the glaring thing is the much different design, both with like the embroidery of like the kind of armor looking thing and the color and everything, but also just how it looks and how it feels and everything. As well as again, it's a newer suit, it's newer technology, so it's a bit of an upgrade to that, as well as I believe cheaper slightly from at least what it launched at for the X16, which is nice. 250 is like one of the cheapest things they've actually launched because I'm not familiar with the pricing of all their products, but they are expensive. Like this suit, this haptic vest is less expensive by about $50 than the haptic gloves that they sell. So that tells you something right there about kind of they really got the price down on this bad boy right here. This particular emblem right here, flipping the camera, but this particular emblem, this is not what it comes with stock. I believe this is when I ordered it because it was around Christmas time, or maybe it was just because it was new. But this is something you get if you order it around Christmas time. But it's generally like a silver and black kind of emblem there. Just wanted to point that out. But yeah, so let's kind of dive into the review of this thing. Again, I've kind of listed some things. It's about $250. It's got 16 haptic feedback motors, 8 on the front, and 8 embedded into the back there. It's kind of a 360 here of essentially what this vest kind of looks like right there. That's the front, back, and sides and everything. That's what the vest kind of looks like all around. And you can see this is kind of like the control hub on the back here. This like plastic kind of USB ports as well as, power brick and everything. But yeah, one thing I will say is I do like the design and color of it. I prefer there is a white and black version of this that does look very nice as well, but I do like the red and black and the kind of gray, kind of dark coloring all this around. It does make it look like a tactical vest somewhat, as well as obviously the kind of embroidery of the armor pieces on here. For those of you who don't know this, because I actually was surprised by this when it initially came. If you remember my initial unboxing video of this, but this little armor kind of embroidery here on the front, that is not like plastic or hard rubber like physical armor. That is just like printed on there essentially, or like engraved, not engraved, but like printed on there, kind of like you know, um, embroidery onto a T-shirt or something, or like just a comic or a illustrated design onto a T-shirt. Essentially, that is not actually armor. You don't feel that. There is nothing protruding there. That's not 3D. That's 2D print onto this, which did kind of catch me by surprise a little bit. Um, I assume that's mainly for keeping cost and weight down because I assume either hard plastic or like hard rubber would be a little more expensive than just printing it on there essentially, as well as make it weigh more than just printing it on there. So kind of a give and take there. I think it would have been cool, but I mean regardless, that's what it's like. And then the rest of it is mostly just black, as you can see. It does have some like spongy kind of, some of it's fabric, some of it's just kind of like canvasy feeling material, especially up here by the shoulders and back. There's some like spongy kind of breathable material back here. So yeah, it's and obviously there's kind of these both elastic as well as like regular straps on the side that essentially hold it to your body and kind of adjust the size depending on how large or small you are, which they do a good job of. This is kind of essentially one size fits all. There isn't sizing guides for this like some other haptic vets I've seen. This is one size fits all. I can't remember the exact parameters of how like large and small it goes to accommodate different people, but it's a pretty wide range. So if you're at all like in a normal human range, you'll be fine. But yeah, so that's kind of the physical experience or appearance of it. It has this little keychain as well as this little hook, almost like a backpack back here, to kind of help with storage if you want to hang it up or something. It's obviously zips up on the front there, so you can kind of take it on and off as you choose. Again, straps kind of hold it on and adjust on the side. There is an inside, there's this mesh lining essentially, kind of like the material you'd wear as like practice jerseys for sports almost. That kind of cover the haptic motors in the suit and kind of just this because this is machine washable, so it also keeps it hygienic a little better. And then under that is kind of just like that kind of spongy, breathable material where the haptic motors are. And then there is some wiring in here, kind of where the power and goes to the haptic motors and such. But yeah, it's kind of the physical aspects of it. As far as that, I think it looks cool. It's pretty light. I never really have a problem when I'm wearing it. It doesn't feel heavy or weigh me down in any of my games whatsoever. One thing I have noticed about some people, not even just this particular haptic suit, but haptic suits in general, are people saying that it's kind of hot or like uncomfortable to wear. I haven't really experienced any uncomfort with wearing this whatsoever in my time wearing it. Again, maybe that could vary person to person, size to size, or how you use it, of course. But it's not heavy. Again, it's very adjustable with the sizes, so it's never too tight or too loose that you don't feel it on there. It's breathable. Again, this isn't an enclosed vest or anything. I've never really had any problems with heat or ventilation or anything, or been like dripping sweat with when I take this thing off. If people are doing that, I assume it's because they're playing an exercise game, kind of like Thrill the Fight, that is compatible with this. That they're going to be sweating a bit anyways, probably. But yeah, I've never had any problems with comfort wearing this. It's fairly well designed. I mean, yeah, it's probably one of the more comfortable haptic suits that I've seen on the market. The only other one that's kind of like vest like this that I've seen is the Woozer kit, and that doesn't have as many motors, and there's some other issues with that it doesn't really make it kind of like this. There's the OO vest and the Tesla suit. Tesla's way too expensive, and the OO suit you have to put directly onto your skin with these like gel pad, like pregnancy simulator looking things. It's kind of weird. I'm on it. Maybe I'll get it one day, but to review it or something. But it kind of throws me off. This you can just throw over your shirt like nothing. You still feel all the haptic motors, obviously, and yeah. And then as far as showing you guys an actual haptic motor, there is an example of one of them right there. They're kind of these little pods right here that they're, vibrate essentially on varying levels depending on your inputs. When, you get shot there, stabbed there, punched there, you shoot a gun and it recoils back at you. That's kind of the idea of how it works. But yeah, comfort wise and design wise, like physically, the physical aspects of these things, they did a good job designing this, especially again for the price point. It's pretty nice. I enjoy this quite a bit. I think they did a good job with that. Now, kind of going on to the ease of use, like how easy is it to get set up? Is it a pain in the ass? VR is kind of trying to move away from that era where you got a million wires, a million things to set up and get the play area and everything. You want your VR experience to be kind of seamless. How seamless is this to connect and play with some of the stuff? So the headsets that this is compatible with are really most kind of mainline VR headsets that you would think of these days. The MetaQuest 3s, the PlayStation VR 2s, I think the Oculus 2 or the MetaQuest 2 is still compatible with this. Maybe a lot of the Steam headsets, like obviously the Valve Index, but a lot of the other stuff, I believe. And they have a list on their website of everything that's supported, but it is rather extensive. So you're not going to go wrong there necessarily. But as far as getting this thing set up, my personal experience, I've used this for the MetaQuest 3 as well as the PlayStation VR 2. Those are the two headsets that I've really tested this out on, as well as flat screen PC gaming. That's all I've really encompassed this on because that's really what I have that's compatible with this at the moment. And as far as ease of setting this up, it's fairly easy. The MetaQuest 3 was pretty seamless. You essentially boot up your vest, boot up your MetaQuest 3 headset, you download the bHaptics Player app on the Horizon Store to your MetaQuest 3, get that downloaded, set that up, and pair your device via Bluetooth as well as the app. Uh, Once you have turned the vest on to your headset, it works well. Natively supported games you can launch right from the bHaptics Player, and you're off and running as long as you have a decent Wi-Fi connection and Bluetooth can get set up and you can download the app and everything. It's pretty seamless, pretty fast to get set up and pretty fast to hop in on consecutive times coming back to it. So it's pretty seamless there. As far as the PSVR 2 goes, it's fairly seamless. It is a little more annoying on the PlayStation VR 2. Essentially, for the PlayStation VR 2, and maybe there's another way to do this. I'll get into in a second, but the way they tell you to do it is get to download a bHaptics Player app onto your phone from the App Store, which is easy to do. Set up an account, or if you don't have an account already from ordering it or anything, but you download a bHaptics Player onto your phone here, and from that you open that, get into account, and you pair it to your phone's app via the Wi-Fi connection and Bluetooth, so that recognizes it and then you turn on your PlayStation 5. You get that connected to the same Wi-Fi network that your phone and by extension your vest is. Um, so you make sure you're on the same Wi-Fi network once you have your PS5 and your phone booted up to the app. Then you get your PlayStation VR 2 set up like you would normally while you're wearing the vest, of course, and it's on. Then you launch a game that is supported on the PlayStation VR 2 natively. I'm not entirely sure how to do the modded games if there is any on the PlayStation VR 2, but you launch a natively supported game, and when you load into that game, it essentially picks up. And since you're on the same Wi-Fi network and you got your thing paired to your phone and your PlayStation game, um, when you start playing that game, the haptics will kick in and it'll be like you're playing it kind of through the MetaQuest. It's a more roundabout way to do it essentially. So it is a little more annoying, and you obviously have to have your phone there, which is kind of annoying, and like just sitting there running the app, which is annoying because it does drain your battery somewhat quickly, as well as my phone personally, which is an iPhone 13 or 14 or some shit. It got kind of hot when I was running the app and playing a game with it over time. At least, like, I don't know, I played a full game of Breachers and a couple game of Breachers and some other games. By the time I was out, the phone was kind of hot and I drained my battery somewhat, not like catastrophically or anything, but I don't know. It's a little more roundabout way to do it than the MetaQuest 3, which I don't know why they can't just put their bHaptics Player app onto the PlayStation Store and do it the same way they do it with the fucking MetaQuest 3, but I don't know. That's just the way they, recommend to do it in the setup video that comes with the, box and everything and the quick start guide. So yeah, that's how they kind of recommend doing that. Not super complicated or difficult, especially assuming you have a good Wi-Fi connection, but it's just a little more roundabout. As far as PC flat screen gaming goes, or I'd assume this is the same if you have a headset that runs through Steam VR and connects to your PC like VR only. You basically on your PC you download the bHaptics player, which is downloadable to Windows and maybe I believe Mac as well. You run that and pair it the same way you do to your MetaQuest 3, I believe. Um, then you kind of just play supported games through there through your headset in the same way there, and you have Steam VR and bHaptics player and of course everything else. As far as how you do flat screen gaming, because you actually can do that, it's a little more roundabout. Again, you have to do the audio to haptics, which we'll get into for non-supported games and everything. But that's we'll get into the audio to haptic, which is kind of the way they handle non-supported games, which means games that aren't on their approved list, natively support the bHaptics TactSuit. But yeah, so that's how you do that. And then again, as I said, the last way to kind of connect games is audio to haptics, which is kind of a roundabout way again to kind of play the games that aren't natively supported on their little VR support list here. So yeah, we'll get into this in a second, but yeah, as far as connectivity, for most things, the MetaQuest 3 and the PlayStation VR 2, which are the dominant kind of headset markets and ecosystem there of the day, it's pretty seamless and straightforward to get connected. It's nothing too crazy. It is a little annoying with the PSVR 2. They have to run it through your phone and Wi-Fi connections and everything, but it's not terrible at the end of the day. And again, it is new technology and it's kind of a niche thing. But yeah, moving on to kind of the game support as well as audio to haptic, which is kind of the last things I want to hit on with this. Game support obviously is a big deal because I mean, again, while you can use this, I guess, like audio to haptic, like watch videos or movies or music videos and stuff, you are mainly buying this as a VR game accessory. That is the mainstay and focus of this device, and that's what most people are buying it for. So, what is the game library like? Because you see companies like OWO Gaming or Woozer stuff. They don't have a huge list of either mod or natively supported games for their product. And that is one thing that bHaptics does that is a bit better than their competitors. Is as far as natively supported or even mod supported games, I believe, even as of now, they do have the longest and most extensive list of games that are supported through their haptic suit. So they are kind of, leading the industry in that, which is nice. So I actually have the, web page pulled up here for stuff that is, here natively supported, I guess. And it lists, this is on the website, you can find all the games that are natively supported or mod supported and stuff for particular headsets and everything. And it seems like they have 178 games that are natively supported across all platforms. And then if you do that, take that away, they have 279 games or applications that are either natively or mod supported that can run on the bHaptics TactSuit Air or Pro. Some of the bigger ones here that it lists as far as natively supported goes are stuff like Breachers and Breachers. I'll do stuff that's both Quest and PSVR 2 at the start. Breachers is on there, which is kind of like Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege of VR. They've got Blade and Sorcery, which Blade and Sorcery, it says like it's one of those games on here on this website. It has this temporarily unavailable on Quest and Steam, which means I don't know exactly what that means, but again, it means temporarily unavailable, I guess. But so theoretically, they're supposed to either be coming soon or fix that. But Blade and Sorcery eventually, they've got Ghost of Tabor, which is like Escape from Tarkov in VR, which is a good game. They've got Pavlov VR, Onward, Arizona Sunshine, Thrill the Fight. They've got Contractors VR, Into the Radius. They've got Epic Roller Coasters, kind of a very old VR title, but regardless, they've got that. They've got Warplanes and World War One Fighters, which is a new thing. Pavlov Shack, which is the Quest version of Pavlov. They've got Ragnarok, like the rhythm game with the Vikings and everything. Um, Half-Life 2 VR mod, which is cool. They've got some, Hyper Dash, which is kind of like a shooter game that's somewhat popular-ish these days. Not sure the user base on that, to be honest with you, though. They've got Arizona Sunshine 1 and 2, it looks like. Medieval Dynasty Settlement, stuff like that. So those are some of the bigger names that are natively supported. Mod supported. essentially means you have to go download and change some stuff around the file, but the game will work if you do that. But it's just a little more of an annoying process. But they have VR chat, they have Beat Saber for that. They got Half-Life Alyx, which is a massive one. Boneworks, another massive one. Walking Dead game. They've got Super Hot VR, Bone Lab. They've got some big titles on there. War Thunder, Elder Scrolls V Skyrim VR. They've got some big Valheim even apparently for stuff like that. Lethal Company. They've got some big titles on there for both mod and natively supported, and they do have the most extensive kind of list of games, which is nice. That's a pro in my book. They've got the biggest library, and of course that'll only continue to grow over time. How how impactful that will be, how fast or big that will grow to, I don't know. Because one thing I wanted to touch on here again, I listed some pretty big VR titles there, but you might be noticing some are missing. Like Metro Awakening isn't on there. The Assassin's Creed game isn't on there. The NFL games aren't on there. A lot of sport, really any sports games aren't on there for the most part. They don't have much support in the way of that. Skydance's Behemoth isn't on there. Asgard's Wrath isn't on there. Batman isn't on there. The theme I'm trying to get at here is there's not a lot of massive VR title or AAA VR titles that are on there, and that's a trend for most VR haptic suits. A lot of a lot of lower like studios or more like indie studios, 2A, single A studios are more than happy to put their games on there because again, it's exposure. They have more time to do that. It's not as big of a pain to port everything over. I'm assuming, and they don't have to put a bunch of man hours on it. But those bigger games, like I mentioned before, those AAA games, they don't really seem to be wasting the resources or really intrigued to port over mini haptics to mini haptic vest, including the bHaptics one. So you don't see support. It doesn't seem like that's a main focus of theirs or really an interest much of theirs. Maybe that'll change in the future, but as of now, a lot of AAA games on VR, big title VR games, don't seem to be on there. Again, I list some pretty big VR titles off that list, but a lot of those weren't AAA games. They were just very good VR games that blew up, So and some of them were just mod support. They weren't even natively supported. So again, it doesn't seem like a lot of AAA support is there at the moment. Whether that'll change in the future, I don't know. It just at the moment, it doesn't seem like those big game studios and their games. It doesn't seem like they're prioritizing or really giving much thought to haptics at the moment, which is something to consider if you want to play some of the bigger titles on there. So it's kind of good and bad. It's got a big library, but it's a lot of games that are kind of smaller. Not saying they're not good, or they don't have the numbers, but it's just something to take into consideration there. And that list of supported games, either mod or natively, and as well as what they're supported on, is all available on the company's website at bHaptics. So you go check out for yourself before you purchase anything, of course. And yeah, so that's kind of a knock and a pro there. They're the most extensive, but again, they don't have a ton of AAA titles or anything like that. But that kind of segues, missing titles of support or anything. That kind of segues into kind of the last thing, if I remember correctly, one of the last things I want to talk about, which is kind of how it feels. I've talked about all the features here, the design, the comfort, the games, and everything, how you connect it and everything. But I haven't talked about the actual haptics themselves. And how that feels and how much immersion that adds, or how awesome it is, or anything like that, or how bad it is. So yeah, that's another thing that you guys probably want to know about. But the haptic motors, I can only speak for the TactSuit Air. That's the only model I've used. So obviously the X40 as well as the TactSuit Pro have a lot more motors, but you still get a pretty good feel for it with the TactSuit Air because it covers most general areas of your body that you'd expect to feel haptics on your front and back there with those 8 motors on each. But yeah, so the way they took it, which is different from someone like OO, which has these like gel shock pads on you essentially, they have haptic motors that when the haptics are triggered because you get shot there, you get stabbed there, you get punched there, or some other impact, like you shoot a gun and it's supposed to be the stock is supposed to be hitting your right shoulder or something. When those are triggered in the games that are mod or native or audio to haptics, it essentially vibrates very like I don't know. It's like one of those buzzers that lets you know that you're table is ready, kind of, but just a little more intense, essentially, and focused. Obviously, you saw the size of the things, but and you can change the kind of harshness of it, which means it can be like all the way from like you can put on 10% vibration, where it's just like a small little buzz there, all the way to like 100% vibration, which really starts getting that motor going, and it vibrates a lot and very I don't know, loudly, I guess you could say. It vibrates a lot, and you really feel it. Again, no pain or discomfort whatsoever, of course. It's just vibration. Even at the max setting, if everything's going off, it feels more like a massage jacket or something than it does like pain or anything, of course. Because again, you want the feedback of, oh, someone just shot me there. I got hit there. I know where I got hit. I felt it, kind of. That's cool. No one wants to actually feel like they got shot, obviously. Even if you are wearing a vest, even if it doesn't kill you, no one wants to have, oh, now I have bruising and broken bones there. So immersive. No, it's you don't want that, obviously, and it doesn't do that. It's not pain or discomfort. It's just vibrational feedback, essentially, which some people are like, oh, maybe you should feel a little pain, but no, it's you do feel that. So if you get shot somewhere, it triggers these cluster of you get shot in like your right upper body or your pec here, it triggers those couple motors that go off and it vibrates like, oh. Or you shoot your gun in certain shooter games. It works really well with shooter games, in particular like Breachers. Breach is probably my favorite game to play with this, honestly. If you shoot your gun, you'll feel it kind of, in this right. For me personally, since I'm right-handed, that's where the gun stock is naturally going to be. You'll feel recoil as you shoot your gun. Games like Thrill of the Fight. If someone punches you, in your chest up here or in your stomach or something right there, like where your ribs are, you feel that like a quick little vibration in a sense. Oh, okay, he hit me there. So yeah, you do get good feedback and directional feedback for the most part especially when you play natively supported games. You get good directional feedback. It does feel cool to like, oh, I just got fucking murdered, a shot in the chest, and I feel that happen. It's a cool immersive little gimmick there. I don't think it's groundbreaking technology or anything, or you've got to go buy this if you really want the full VR experience. But it is definitely nice to have. It's definitely a cool feature. It does build a little immersion there. It's pretty cool. It's a nice little feedback. I will say the motors on the back, you don't really utilize them as much, obviously, because it's rare that you get punched, stabbed, or shot in the back in a lot of these games. So they don't go off as much, and they don't seem to. Maybe it's just because your back doesn't really have the same type of sensations or like direct feedback that your chest does, but they don't seem to make as big of an impact. But again, it's good that they're there for directional feedback, and it works pretty well. Um, but yeah, the last thing I kind of wanted to get into here was this audio to haptic kind of feedback here, which essentially what audio to haptic is. That's why they include this little doohickey into your kit here, as 3.5 millimeter jack cable here. Audio to feedback is essentially their way of letting you play and use this vest, on games that aren't natively supported or natively or modded support. So a game, if that's not on the list of supported games for the website, you can't find it on here. Don't worry, you can still play it if you have this. You essentially take this little three-pronged, 3.5 millimeter jack converter. You plug it into the back of this little thing right here. As you can see, the little port there. You plug one end. This is the cable they provide you, this 3.5 millimeter cable. You plug it into the little converter there. The other end goes into your headset on your MetaQuest 3 or whatever. And then there's an extra kind of thing there. You essentially are supposed to plug your headset in there. Like I'm obviously using a USB sound card for my current headset, but you plug a 3.5 millimeter jack cable from your headset into that, which goes into the vest, so that essentially what audio to haptics does for this vest is it picks up the audio of the game and what's happening, and displays it and tries to replicate the audio onto the vest, as it's happening. And the reason you need your headsets in is because when you have this in and you're running audio to haptics, it overrides the like integrated speakers of the PlayStation VR 2 or the MetaQuest 3, 3S. So you won't hear anything if you don't have a headset plugged into the other end of this thing. So you need to plug a headset, then you need to have a headset that is wearable with the MetaQuest 3 or whatever. That also has a 3.5 millimeter jack to plug into this, so that you have that interconnectivity there, and you can actually hear what's going on. So yeah, it's a bit of a roundabout way, unfortunately, for the audio to get back to you, which sucks that it cuts it off like that. And because I guess that's how they have to do it to pick it up for the suit and everything. And I will say another issue that kind of you run into with this audio to haptic, whether you have the audio in a headset or not, is when you have this thing going in the audio to haptics thing, it does not do a great job of directional feedback. It does not do a great job of haptics immersion at all. It seems like more of a thing almost to where if you're listening to music or something and want to feel it on your body. Because, yeah, for games, I tried some non supported games like NFL Pro Era, Beat Saber, stuff like that on the audio to haptics here, and it definitely works, which is nice. Obviously, you want the surface to work. It's a little more roundabout the setup, but again, it works, which is nice. But it is like almost wearing a massage vest. Like I'm not joking at all. It is quite literally like wearing a massage vest because that thing is constantly going off. Because you will get audio to haptic feedback from literally any noise that happens in the game or these interfaces or your home screen of Meta even as you're scrolling through and clicking on stuff. You get a small haptic feedback for even that. Anything that would make a sound for your headset or speakers is going through this going to be converted to haptic feedback for you. So you can imagine it is just constantly going off in vibrations in no particular it has a little of a directional thing or rhythm, but it's not great. Like Beat Saber, I tried to load it up. It has a little feedback and audio haptics that like try to hit you with the beat as you're slicing the blocks and you're getting the audio cues and everything. But there's just so much audio always going on that there's always some vibration happening, so it's a little harder to pick out. And when I tried to run this on NFL Pro Era, it is again you get the load up screen. Any sound that is happening in that game is going to be converted to haptics. So the loading screen immediately just hit me, and the haptics were just going constantly because there's menu music and everything. I guess if you turned off all the music and any of the subtitle readings or anything, stuff like that, and just had it for game audio, it'd be a little better, obviously. But it kind of just sucks that you'd have to do that in the first place. And secondly, the audio to haptic still isn't great for directional feedback, and it's not nearly as immersive or direct or good as like natively or modded supported games that are compatible with the vest. So this is a cool little thing. I'm glad they included it. It's nice to have at least some support for other games or be able to use it for music if you want maybe. But it's not something that, especially for gaming, works particularly well. As well as again, you essentially have this thing kind of plugged in. It's kind of like one of those security kind of Bluetooth headphones, but I mean, it does a good job of being extendable, so it's not like you can't put it on there. But again, it's one more cord that is going to be on your body, especially if you're running like a PlayStation VR2 or something. It is another cord that is going to be on your body, which kind of sucks. But yeah, I think that's kind of all I wanted to go over there. Kind of just to reiterate some points. I like the design of the thing. It looks cool. It feels comfortable and light to wear. Never really had any huge issues with that whatsoever. This audio thing or this display thing, it's easy to reach the power button, all those modes and everything for the control panel back here while you're in VR, so you don't have to take this off and fiddle with that. Good for storage, breathable. I didn't get hot in this thing at all, really. Feels comfortable, feels light. You know, overall, pretty good physical design here that I enjoy quite a bit. Again, for the game support, they have the most extensive library of really any haptic vest you're going to get right now. Again, not a lot of AAA games, so kind of give or take there, but that's not a huge deal breaker for you. They do have the most games for you to actually boot up and try with this thing. So, it's always good for such a niche kind of product like this, at least at the moment, of course. Yeah, it feels nice. As far as the haptics go, it does, audio haptics, we just talked about that. I'm not a huge fan of. It doesn't work very well for immersion or gameplay. But the actual haptics itself for natively supported games or modded supported games, it works pretty well. There is good directional feedback. You do feel it. It builds immersion when you're built into that. It does feel pretty cool. It's pretty cool to use and wear. It's easy to set up, which is nice for most platforms and applications. It's pretty nice. Again, this is again coming in at $250, which, as far as haptic vests go, is about as cheap as you're going to find a haptic vest at the moment. This probably is the cheapest, actual haptic vest you're going to find at the moment, which is always a plus for people trying to save money or don't have a ton of money to get into this. That's why there's something niche as this in general. But one criticism, I guess, for $50 more, you can get a literal VR headset in the MetaQuest 3, but for $50 less, you're getting a pretty niche VR accessory. So, is it worth the $250 or is it worth the $500 for the TactSuit Pro? I personally, at the moment, I don't think I'd recommend shelling out the 500 or more for the TactSuit Pro or any of the other like niche kind of wrist or hands or fucking armbands or anything like that. I personally wouldn't shell out for that at the moment. Maybe later if this thing really does take off or anything. But yeah, it is cool technology. It works well for what it's designed to do and for games that it's compatible and designed for. It's pretty cool. It does build immersion. It's the cheapest tax suit or haptic suit we've really seen on the market right now. If you already have a VR headset, again, you really like VR, you're an enthusiast about it, you have some extra money lying around that you just want to burn or spend on something kind of cool, it's not a bad purchase. You can definitely justify it to yourself. But if you don't like VR that much, if you don't play VR that often, or you don't play a lot of games on there, or you don't really play any or a lot of games that are supported by bHaptics, it's kind of a hard sell for $250 for you. You know, the market's just not there for you, and you're not going to use it as much as you want to have such a cool and kind of 250 expensive accessory. So again, it's a person by person basis of whether it's worth it to them or not. I will say though, for the right person, it does work pretty well. It is kind of a cool accessory at again the most affordable point we've seen it yet. Not to say it won't go lower, of course, at some point, but it's new technology at the moment. But yeah, so it's kind of an interesting product there. It's kind of hard to give this thing a 0 through 10 rating because again, for one person who's a big VR fan, plays a bunch of games that are all supported by it, really plays it, really has the money lying around and doesn't really have anything else to spend it on, and just has some money to burn. It's probably like, I don't know, as far as VR accessories goes that you can actually spend it on, it's probably like an 8. It's a solid 7 or 8. It's a solid, kind of cool immersive building product. But for somebody who's not a big fan of VR, doesn't play that often, doesn't play a lot of games that aren't supported by it, it's kind of hard to justify $250 or more depending on what haptic suit you get. It's probably like a 3 then, because you're not going to get much use out of it. But I guess you could say that about literally every product, ever designed. If it's not for you, it's going to be a 0. But regardless, I mean, it's an interesting piece of technology. I look forward to see what they do with this in the future, both for the support of it as well as what technology will come later in the future that might blow this out of the water or something. It's going to be interesting to watch. But right now, yeah. I mean, again, I'm not going to give this a 0 through 10, hard rating as we speak right now. But as far as who I'd recommend this product to, it's VR enthusiasts that have some extra money laying around and want to kind of add an extra layer of immersion and add a cool new product to the lineup because you don't have a lot of other or you have a lot of other stuff already. That's the type of person I recommend this product to. I wouldn't recommend this product to somebody who's kind of just a niche VR player, doesn't play very often, or doesn't, kind of just a casual or normal VR player, especially if you don't have the money to just burn. I wouldn't really recommend it to you. It's kind of a harder sell. But yeah, that's kind of my recommendation or overall review of it, I guess. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I know this kind of went long. I just had a lot I wanted to talk about with this vest. And I know I kind of ramble too much. So I just got to shorten up these videos a little bit here. But yeah, that's kind of my overall review. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you think about the suit down in the comments. Whether you're interested in one, any questions you have, or anything you want to comment down below. I appreciate your view, and make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video and you're enjoying the channel and my content that I put out. It really does help the video and the channel grow, and I appreciate what you guys have been doing since I've been back here. But yeah, hope you guys have a great day, and I'll catch you in the next one.